lovelies, it is time for another book haul, so stay tuned. So it's actually been a couple of months since I've filmed a book haul, so this is more than 1 month's worth of books. I don't know how often you're seeing the book hauls because I've still backed up on them, but this is like 2 months of books. Okay, I have 38 books here to haul for you. So I don't think that's too terrible for 2 months worth. All right, let's start with this one that's kind of sticking out here. This is actually a box set, and I ordered this from, I believe it was Books A Million. Try not to drop anything on my head here. These books have been out for a while, but this was something I pre-ordered because it was like coming out as a set for the first time. And these are the paperbacks of the Slammed collection by Colleen Hoover. So we have Slammed, Point of Retreat, and This Girl. And this says, in Slammed, the debut novel from the queen of the bestseller list, young neighbors Lakeland and Will fall in love. Then a shocking discovery brings all their hopes and dreams to an abrupt halt. It is only through their mutual love for poetry that they can explore the turmoil in their hearts. As their story continues in Point of Retreat, a surprising revelation about Will's past further rattles their fraught relationship. Together they must decide how far they're willing to go for their future. In This Girl, the heartrending conclusion to the Slam series, Lakeland's pleas to learn more about Will's life move him to finally divulge everything about his complicated past. Are they both strong enough to face these painful truths, or is it time to move on forever? Well, let me set these down here. Okay, these are all books that I've ordered from, I think, Books A Million. Okay, so first off is A Curse for True Love by Stephanie Garber. This is the Barnes & Noble exclusive edition. This is the third book in the Once Upon a Broken Heart series. And let me click on that so I can tell you about it. That says, how far would you go for happily ever after? For as long as she can remember, Evangeline Fox has believed in true love and happy endings, until she learns that the love of her life will marry another. Desperate to stop the wedding and heal her wounded heart, Evangeline strikes a deal with the charismatic but wicked Prince of Hearts. In exchange for his help, he asks for 3 kisses, to be given at the time and place of his choosing. But after Evangeline's first promised kiss, she learns that bargaining with an immortal is a dangerous game and that the Prince of Hearts wants far more from her than she'd pledged. He has plans for Evangeline, plans that will either end in the greatest happily ever after or the most exquisite tragedy. Okay, next up is A Fire in the Flesh by Jennifer L. Armentrout. This is also a Barnes & Noble exclusive edition. This is book 3 in the Flesh and Fire series, and book 1 is A Shadow in the Ember, and that says, born shrouded in the veil of the primals, a maiden has the fates promised. Seraphina Morel's future has never been hers. Chosen before birth to uphold the desperate deal her ancestors struck to save his people, Sarah must leave behind her life and offer herself to the primal of death as his consort. However, Sarah's real destiny is the most closely guarded secret in all of Lasagna. She's not the well-protected maiden, but an assassin with one mission, one target. Make the primal of death fall in love, become his weakness, and then end him. If she fails, she dooms her kingdom to a slow demise at the hands of the rot. Sarah has always known what she is. Chosen, consort, assassin, weapon, a specter never fully formed yet drenched in blood, a monster, until the primal of death's unexpected words and deeds chase away the darkness gathering inside her, and his seductive touch ignites a passion she's never allowed herself to feel and cannot feel for him. But Sarah has never had a choice. Either way, her life is forfeit. It always has been, as she has been forever touched by life and death. Okay, next is It Ends at Midnight by Harriet Tice. And this says, it's New Year's Eve, and the stage is set for a lavish party in one of Edinburgh's best neighborhoods. It's a moment for old friends to set the past to rights and move on. The night sky is alive with fireworks and the champagne is flowing, but the celebration fails to materialize because someone at this party is going to die tonight. Midnight approaches and the countdown begins, but it seems one of the guests doesn't want a resolution. They want revenge. From the acclaimed author of Blood Orange comes a stunning thriller of a party spiraling into murder when one guest's plan to right old wrongs ends in blood, told with Harriet Tice's signature dark and propulsive twists. All right, next up is Wish of the Wicked by Danielle Page. And this says, everyone knows a fairy godmother helped Cinderella get to the ball, but no one knows why. For centuries, Pharaoh's family, the Intante, served as magical advisors to the queen. Their wisdom and foresight kept the 13 queendoms in harmony, until a new queen, Magritte, takes power, outlaws magic, and executes the Intante. Only Pharaoh survives, with her magic warped beyond repair. She can now use it only to fulfill the feeble wishes of commoners. Since that day, Pharaoh has dreamed of revenge. The one way to reach the queen is through her son, Prince Mather, who is nearing the age when he must select a bride. When a special ball in his honor is announced, Pharaoh sees her opportunity. All it will take is a young woman named Cinderella, who dreams of true love. With one night, one chance to reclaim her magic and destroy the queen, Pharaoh will stop at nothing. New York Times bestselling author Danielle Page reimagines a beloved tale challenging everything you thought you knew about fairy godmothers. So excited for this. Okay, let me just grab this whole stack here. Ooh. These also all came from Barnes & Noble. Okay, next is Twisted Wonderland, the manga, Volume 2. And I've pulled up Volume 1 here on Goodreads. This says, manga based on the hit mobile video game from Disney, Twisted Wonderland. Stranded in the world of Twisted Wonderland, you must brave a magical school filled with ghosts, monsters, and uncooperative students. You is whisked away to Night Raven College, an arcane academy in the world of Twisted Wonderland. Stranded until he can find a way home, you is allowed to stay on campus despite having no magic of his own. But when his new friends land him in trouble with the head mage, his future at the school looks bleak. Now Yu's fate hinges on bringing together a pair of argumentative first years and a fire-breathing monster cat. I'm excited to give those a try. Okay, next up is Check and Mate by Allie Hazelwood. This says, Mallory Greenleaf is done with chess. Every move counts nowadays. After the sport led to the destruction of her family 4 years earlier, Mallory's focus is on her mom, her sisters, and the dead-end job that keeps the lights on. That is, until she begrudgingly agrees to play in one last charity tournament and inadvertently wipes the board with notorious king killer Nolan Sawyer, current world champion and reigning bad boy of chess. Nolan's loss to an unknown rookie shocks everyone, especially Mallory. What's even more confusing, his desire to cross pawns again. What kind of gambit is Nolan playing? The smart move would be to walk away, resign, game over. But Mallory's victory opens the door to sorely needed cash prizes, and despite everything, she can't help feeling drawn to the enigmatic strategist. As she rockets up the ranks, Mallory struggles to keep her family safely separated from the game that wrecked it in the first place. And as her love for the sport she so desperately wanted to hate begins to rekindle, Mallory quickly realizes that the games aren't only on the board. The spotlight is hotter than she imagined, and the competition can be fiercely attractive and intelligent and infuriating. I'm very much looking forward to some more Allie Hazelwood. I love her books. Okay, next up is Bookshops and Bone Dust by Travis Baldry. Yeah, and this is the Barnes & Noble exclusive edition. And this is the prequel to Legends and Lattes, so I'm pretty sure I can read what's on here. This says, Viv is a young, battle-hungry orc, but her career with a notorious mercenary company, Rockham's Ravens, isn't going as planned. Wounded during the hunt for a powerful necromancer, she's packed off against her will to recuperate in this sleepy beach town of Merc, so far from the action that she worries she'll never be able to return to it. What's a thwarted soldier of fortune to do? Spending her hours at a beleaguered bookshop in the company of its foul-mouthed proprietor is the last thing Wood have predicted, but it may be both exactly what she needs and the seeds of change she couldn't possibly imagine. Still, adventure isn't that far away. A suspicious traveler in gray, a gnome with a chip on her shoulder, a summer fling, and an improbable number of skeletons prove Merc to be more eventful than Viv could ever have expected. Next is Hunt on Dark Waters by Katie Robert, and this is also a Barnes & Noble exclusive edition. This says, a stern captain meets his witchy match in this captivating first fantasy romance novel in the Crimson Sails series. Evelyn is a witch with a perfect storm of impulses, terrible taste in bed partners, sticky fingers, and a lust for danger. After she steals from her vampire ex and falls through a portal to another realm, she's fished out of the water by a band of seafarers and their telekinetic captain. She's immediately given a choice, join their ship's crew or die. Bowen has no memory of his life before he became one of the Swen Anwin. He and his band of pirates are bound by vow to patrol through Threshold, the magical sea between realms, keeping the portals to other worlds safe. When he rescues Evelyn, he doesn't expect to be attracted to the unflappably brassy pickpocket. The longer he spends in her presence, the more he begins to question if his heart is the next thing she'll steal. But as tension heats up between Bowen and Evelyn, the danger at sea escalates as well, because Evelyn has no intention of keeping her vows to the Swen Anwin, and if she betrays the crew, both she and Bowen will pay the ultimate price. Okay, next up is Iris Kelly Doesn't Date by Ashley Herring Blake, and this is book 3 in the Bright Fall series. Book 1 is Delilah Green Doesn't Care, so I will read you that. That says, a clever and steamy queer romantic comedy about taking chances and accepting love with all its complications, from the author of Asher Parker Doesn't Fail. Delilah Green swore she would never go back to Bright Falls. Nothing is there for her but memories of a lonely childhood where she was little more than a burden to her cold and distant stepfamily. Her life is in New York, with her photography career finally gaining steam and her bed never empty. Sure, it's a different woman every night, but that's just fine with her. When Delilah's estranged stepsister, Astrid, pressures her into photographing her wedding with a guilt trip and a 5-figure check, Delilah finds herself back in the godforsaken town that she used to call home. She plans to breeze in and out, but then she sees Claire Sutherland, one of Astrid's stuck-up besties, and decides that maybe there's some fun and a little retribution to be had in Bright Falls after all. Having raised her 11-year-old daughter mostly on her own while dealing with her unreliable ex and running a bookstore, Claire Sutherland depends upon a life without surprises, and Delilah Green is an unwelcome surprise, at first. Though they've known each other for years, they don't really know each other, so Claire is unsettled when Delilah figures out exactly what buttons to push. When they're forced together during a gauntlet of wedding preparations, including a plot to save Astrid from her horrible fiancé, Claire isn't sure if she has the strength to resist Delilah's charms. Even worse, she's starting to think she doesn't want to. Okay, these two were actually purchased from the physical store, Barnes & Noble. So I have the holiday edition of Fourth Wing with black sprayed edges. And then I have Iron Flame. Actually, I got this one from Amazon now that I think about it. Yeah, I ordered this one from Amazon because I got it a lot cheaper. Marty's actually currently reading this. How to describe this? I think everybody's been talking about Fourth Wing. War College, Dragon Riders, steamy. Well, a little steamy. Here, let me just read what it says. Just in case you don't know. This says, enter the brutal and elite world of a war college for dragon riders from #1 New York Times best-selling author Rebecca Yarros. 20-year-old Violet Sorrengail was supposed to enter the scribe quadrant, living a quiet life among books and history. Now the commanding general, also known as her toughest Talon's mother, has ordered Violet to join the hundreds of candidates striving to become the elite Navarre dragon riders. The elite of Navarre dragon riders. But when you're smaller than everyone else and your body is brittle, death is only a heartbeat away, because dragons don't bond to fragile humans. They incinerate them. With fewer dragons willing to bond than cadets, most would kill Violet to better their own chances of success. The rest would kill her just for being her mother's daughter. Like Xaden Ryerson, the most powerful and ruthless wing leader in the Riders Quadrant. She'll need every edge her wits can give her just to see the next sunrise. Yet with every day that passes, the war outside grows more deadly, the kingdom's protective wards are failing, and the death toll continues to rise. Even worse, Violet begins to suspect leadership is hiding a terrible secret. Friends, enemies, lovers, everyone at Bassageith War College has an agenda, because once you enter, there are only two ways out: graduate or die. I've read it twice already and gave it 5 stars both times. Marty also gave it 5 stars, and like I said, he's already reading this one. Okay, this one I purchased at an event. Well, I pre-ordered it to get at an event, and that was Swordcatcher by Cassandra Clare. She was having a little discussion and signing, so I got this signed by her at that. And so this says, 2 outcasts find themselves at the center of world-altering change in the start of a riveting epic fantasy series from the #1 New York Times bestselling author of the Shadowhunter Chronicles. In the vibrant city-state of Castellane, the richest of the nobles and the most debauched of criminals have one thing in common: the constant search for wealth, power, and the next hedonistic thrill. Kell is an orphan stolen from the life he knew to become the sword catcher, the body double of a royal heir, Prince Connor Aurelian. He has been raised alongside the prince, trained in every aspect of combat and statecraft. He and Connor are as close as brothers, but Kell knows that his destiny is to die for Connor. No other future is possible. Lynn Castor is one of the Ashkar, a small community whose members still possess magical abilities. By law, they must live behind walls within the city, but Lynn, a physician, ventures out to tend to the sick and dying of Castellane. Despite her skills, she cannot heal her best friend without access to forbidden knowledge. After a failed assassination attempt brings Lynn and Kell together, they are drawn into the web of the mysterious Ragpicker King, the criminal ruler of Castellane's underworld, who offers them each what they want most. But as the two descend into his world of intrigue and shadow, they discover a conspiracy of corruption that reaches from the darkest gutters of Castellane to the highest tower of its palaces. As long-kept secrets begin to unravel, they must ask themselves, is knowledge worth the price of betrayal? Can forbidden love bring down a kingdom? And will their discoveries plunge their nation into war and the world into chaos? Next is one that I ordered from, I think it was Walker Books or something like that in the UK. That is City of Ashes. I think it's the 15th anniversary. Yes, the 15th anniversary edition. UK edition, and it's so pretty. This is the second book in the Mortal Instruments series. Alright, these 2 books here came from a little farmer's market where I bought them directly from the author. So the first one is a Phantom House Press anthology, Exquisite Poison, and by the author, I mean she's one of the authors in here. This says, we picked their poison and made it count, something they can't live without. Whether it be sweet or quietly deadly, we've overwhelmed them with a medley. It's more than they can bear, read on if you dare. Exquisite Poison is a collection of poems and short fiction. So. And then, let me set this here. This goes along with it. These are cocktail recipes inspired by fiction, and it's a companion to the Exquisite Poison anthology. It's called, and it's a beautiful cocktail guide. I'm gonna stick that back there because it's kind of big. Okay, these next 3 books came from the Aardvark book club. They kindly sent them to me. So the first one is A Spinster's Guide to Danger and Dukes by Amanda Collins. And this says, it is a truth universally acknowledged that a lady in danger must be in need of rescue, but whether she wants to be rescued is up for debate. England, 1867. Miss Poppy Delamere is living a lie. To escape an odious betrothal, she fled to London, where she's been hiding as the unassuming secretary Flora Deaver. However, when her beloved sister is accused of murder, Poppy cannot leave her to the wolves. Only a most unexpected and unwelcome collision interrupts her journey home. Despite a rather dismal first meeting, Joshua Fielding, the Duke of Langham, has no intention of abandoning a lady in need. But he's not above asking a favor. A fake betrothal will give Poppy and her sister the power of the dukedom and protect Langham from the society misses intent on becoming his duchess. Yet the longer the ruse goes on, the more Poppy and Langham realize how false their first impressions were, and the less pretend their engagement feels. But before Langham can propose in truth, their search reveals a tangled web of lies and betrayal. With time running out, can Poppy and Langham find the real culprit before Poppy becomes the next victim? Next is Perfectly Nice Neighbors by Kia Abdullah. And this says, when a dream home comes with nightmare neighbors, how far will you go to keep your family safe? Salma Katan is hopeful about Leinheim, the suburban development into which she, her husband, and their son have just moved. The Bangladeshi family needs a fresh start, and Blenheim feels like just the place. Soon after they move in, Salma spots her white neighbor, Tom Hutton, ripping out the anti-racist banner her son put in the front garden. Avoiding confrontation, Salma takes the banner inside and puts it in her window. But the next morning, she wakes up to find her window smeared with paint. When she does confront Tom, battle lines are drawn between the two families. As racial and social tensions escalate and the stakes rise, it's clear that a reckoning is coming, and someone is going to get hurt. Next is Rouge by Mona Awad. And this one says, from the critically acclaimed author of Bunny comes a horror-tinged gothic fairy tale about a lonely dress shop clerk whose mother's unexpected death sends her down a treacherous path in pursuit of youth and beauty. Can she escape her mother's fate and find a connection that is more than skin deep? For as long as she can remember, Belle has been insidiously obsessed with skin and skincare videos. When her estranged mother, Noelle, mysteriously dies, Belle finds herself back in Southern California, dealing with her mother's considerable debts and grappling with lingering questions about her death. The stakes escalate when a strange woman in red appears at the funeral, offering a tantalizing clue about her mother's demise, followed by a cryptic video about a transformative spa experience. With the help of a pair of red shoes, Belle is lured into the barbed embrace of La Maison de Medusa, the same lavish, culty spa to which her mother was devoted. There, Belle discovers the frightening secret behind her and her mother's obsession with the mirror, and the great shimmering depths and demons that lurk on the other side of the glass. Snow White meets Eyes Wide Shut in this surreal descent into the dark side of beauty, envy, grief, and the complicated love between mothers and daughters. With black humor and seductive horror, Rouge explores the cult-like nature of the beauty industry, as well as the danger of internalizing its pitiless gaze. Brimming with California sunshine and blood-red rose petals, Rouge holds up a warped mirror to our relationship with morality, our collective fixation with surfaces, and the wondrous deep longing that might lie beneath. Okay, these next two have come from my book of the month. So the first one is You Again by Kate Goldbeck. And this says, can they stop hating each other long enough to fall in love? When Ari and Josh first meet, the wrong kind of sparks fly. They hate each other instantly. A free-spirited, struggling comedian, Ari likes to keep things casual and never sleeps over after hooking up. Josh, a born and bred New Yorker, has ambitious plans to take the culinary world by storm and find the one. They have absolutely nothing in common, except they happen to be sleeping with the same woman. Ari and Josh never expect their paths to cross again, but years later, as they're both reeling from ego-bruising breakups, a chance encounter leads to a surprising connection. Friendship. Turns out spending time with your former nemesis is fun when you're too sad to hate each other and too sad for hate sex. As friends without benefits, they find comfort in late-night Netflix binges, swiping through each other's online dating profiles, and bickering across boroughs, until one night the unspoken boundaries of their platonic relationship begin to blur. With sharp observations and sizzling chemistry, You Again explores the dynamics of co-ed friendship in this irresistible romantic comedy of modern love in all its forms. All right, next is Starling House by Alex E. Haro. And this one says, a gorgeously modern gothic fantasy from the best-selling author of The 10,000 Doors of January. I dream sometimes about a house I've never seen. Opal is a lot of things. Orphan, high school dropout, full-time cynic, and part-time cashier. But above all, she's determined to find a better life for her younger brother, Jasper. One that gets them out of Eden, Kentucky, a town remarkable for only two things, bad luck and E. Starling, the reclusive 19th century author of The Underland, who disappeared over 100 years ago. All she left behind were dark rumors and her home. Everyone agrees that it's best to ignore the uncanny mansion and its misanthropic heir, Arthur. Almost everyone, anyway. I should be scared, but in the dream, I don't hesitate. Opal has been obsessed with the Underland since she was a child. When she gets the chance to step inside Starling House and make some extra cash with for her brother's escape fund, she can't resist. But sinister forces are digging deeper into the buried secrets of Starling House, and Arthur's own nightmares have become far too real. As Eden itself seems to be drowning in its own ghosts, Opal realizes that she might finally have found a reason to stick around. In my dream, I'm home. And now she'll have to fight. Welcome to Starling House. Enter if you dare. Okay, my battery is getting low, so let me go change that out, and I'll be right back to go over the rest of these books. Okay, so the rest of these books all came from different subscription boxes. I think most of them were like the Bookish Box and Unplugged Book Box. Okay, let me grab this stack. Okay, the first book here is Wings Once Cursed and Bound by Piper J. Drake. And this actually didn't come with a dust jacket, so I've pulled it up on Goodreads so I can tell you about it. This says, my wings unbound, I am the Thai bird princess, the canary, and no matter the cost, I will be free. Bennett Andrews represents a secret organization of supernatural beings dedicated to locating and acquiring mythical objects, tugging them safely away where they cannot harm the human race. When he meets Paraffin Ratana, it's too late. She has already stepped into the red shoes, trapped by their curse to dance to her death. But Bennett isn't the only supernatural looking for deadly artifacts, and when the shoes don't seem to harm Paraffin, he realizes that he'll have to save her from the likes of creatures she never knew existed. Bennett sweeps Paraffin into a world of myth and power far beyond anything she ever imagined. There, she finds the magic exists in places she never dreamed, including deep within herself. I'm sure I was pronouncing that incorrectly, but I'll do my best. Okay, next up is Neon Gods by Katie Robert. This says, he was supposed to be a myth, but from the moment I crossed the river Styx and fell under his dark spell, he was quite simply mine. This is a hot modern retelling of Hades and Persephone. It says, society darling Persephone Demetrio plans to flee the ultramodern city of Olympus and start over far from the backstabbing politics of the 13 houses. But all that's ripped away when her mother ambushes her with an engagement to Zeus, the dangerous power behind their glittering city's dark facade. With no options left, Persephone flees to the forbidden Undercity and makes a devil's bargain with a man she once believed a myth, a man who awakens her to a world she never knew existed. Hades has spent his life in the shadows, and he has no intention of stepping into the light. But when he finds that Persephone can offer a little slice of the revenge he spent years craving, it's all the excuse he needs to help her, for a price. Yet every breathless night spent tangled together has given Hades a taste for Persephone, and he'll go to war with Olympus itself to keep her close. Next up is The Dark King by Gina L. Maxwell. This says, I thought a weekend away would be the perfect escape until I woke up married and trapped by the king of the dark fae. For Bryn Mira, a free trip to the exclusive and ultra-luxe Nightfall Hotel and Casino in Vegas should have been the perfect way to escape the debris of her crumbling career. But waking up from a martini and lust-fueled night to find herself married to Caden Varon, the reclusive billionaire who owns a hotel and most of the city, isn't the jackpot one would think. It seems her dark and sexy new husband is actually royalty, the Fae King of the Night Court, and there's an entire world beneath the veil of Vegas. Whether light or shadow, the Fae are a far cry from fairy tales, and now they've made Bran a pawn in their dark games of power. And Caden is the most dangerous of all, an intoxicating cocktail of sin and raw, insatiable hunger. She should run, but every night of passion pulls Bran deeper into his strange and sinister world, until she's no longer certain she wants to leave, even if she could. Next is Jester by Brielle D. Porter. And this says, The dead don't stay dead in Sin City. Lizette's father killed the king. His execution leaves Lizette alone, disgraced, and without the magic he intended to pass on to her. Desperate to survive in a city glutted with power, Lizette enters into a deadly competition. If she wins, she'll become the highest ranked performer in the world, the Queen's Jester. If she loses, it may be off with her head. Alright, next is The Girls from Hush Cabin by Marie Hoy Kinney. And this says, in this suspenseful YA thriller from debut author Marie Hoy Kinney, 4 former friends, each with their own dark secret, must team up to solve a murder. Callista, Zoe, Holly, and Denise were inseparable best friends when they spent their summers together at a sleepaway camp. But after an unexplained tragedy forced the camp to close, the girls drifted apart. Years later, reunited at their beloved camp counselor Violet's funeral, the 4 former best friends quickly realize how much they've changed over the years. But despite their differences, they agree on one thing. Violet's so-called accidental death was actually murder. Unwilling to leave the case unsolved, they set off to uncover the truth, even if it means revealing the dark secrets of their past. But someone wants them to stop investigating, and the anonymous threats keep coming, leaving them suspicious of everyone. No one can be trusted, not even the girls from Hush Cabin. Next up is Our Vengeful Souls by Christy McManus. And this says, it all started with a curse. When mermaid Saria overshadows her brother and the kingdom's rightful heir, Triton, the position of next ruler of the sea is in question. Determined to keep his throne, Triton banishes Saria with a warning. If you ever return, you will become a monster. Left for dead, Saria washes up on the shores of Atlantis, where she is rescued by a kind merchant with a tragic past. He earns her trust, but Atlanteans fear magic, and Saria must conceal her true identity as her feelings for her savior deepen. Her skill with a blade finds her a place within the Athenian army, and Saria soon wavers between the pool of revenge and the possibility of love on land. But when a friend's fate is at risk, she must make the hardest decision of all, expose who she truly is, and be burned at the stake as a witch, or return to the sea as a monster. Alright, next up is The Second Death of Edie and Violet Bond. And this says, Sacramento, 1885. Edie and Violet Bond know the truth about death. The 17-year-old twins are powerful mediums, just like their mother. Violet can open the veil between life and death, and Edie can cross into the spirit world. But their abilities couldn't save them when their mother died and their father threatened to commit them to a notorious asylum. Now runaways, Edie and Violet are part of a traveling spiritualist show, a tight-knit group of young women who demonstrate their real talents under the guise of communing with spirits. Each night, actresses, poets, musicians, and orators all make contact with spirits who happen to have something to say, notions that young ladies could never openly express. But when Violet's act goes terribly wrong one night, Edie learns that the dark spirit responsible for their mother's death has crossed into the land of the living. As they investigate the identity of her mysterious final client, they realize that someone is hunting mediums, and they may be next. Only by trusting in one another can the twins uncover a killer who will stop at nothing to cheat death. Alright, next is Truth in Blue by Marie Amel. This says, sometimes life is better as a lie. Malachi wanted to protect his kingdom from threats beyond its borders. Instead, stripped of his magic and on the run, he now needs to save it from his brother, the king himself. Amaryllis wanted to have nothing to do with humans. Instead, stranded in the wrong realm, she now needs to retrieve a lost Fey relic with powers no one comprehends. Una wanted to be a knight in shining armor. Instead, haunted by the memories of a life she never lived, Una now needs to find answers from someone she doesn't remember meeting. When their paths cross, each must decide what matters to them the most, or risk losing everything they hold dear. In a world where angels and shades battle for souls while the devil sips his tea, the fate of one country, 2 races, and 4 realms hang in the balance when love and loyalties are tested to their limits. Okay, I need to go get me something to drink because I've been talking for way too long and my throat is so dry. I'll be right back. Okay, next up is A Long Time Dead by Samara Breger. And this says, Somewhere foggy, 1837. Poppy had always loved the night, which is why it wasn't too much of a bother to wake one evening in an unfamiliar home far from London, weak and confused and plagued with a terrible thirst for blood, to learn that she could no longer step out into the day. And while vampirism presented several disadvantages, it more than made up for those in its benefits. Immortality, a body that could run at speed for hours without tiring, the thrill of becoming a predator, the thing that pulls rabbits from bushes and tears through their fur and flesh with the sharp point of a white fang. And of course, Rosen, the mysterious woman who has lived for centuries, who held Poppy through her painful transformation, and who for some reason is now teaching her how to adjust to her new endless life. A tight, lonely, buttoned-up woman with the kindness and care pressed up behind her teeth. The time they spend together is as transformative to Poppy as the changes in her body, and soon she finds herself hopelessly, overwhelmingly attached. But Rosen has secrets of her own and can't make any promises, not when vengeance must be served. Soon their little world explodes. Together and apart, they encounter scores of vampires, shifty pirates, conniving opera singers, ancient nobles, glamorous French women, and a found family that throws a very particular sort of party. But overhead, threat looms. One woman who is capable of destroying everything Poppy and Rosen hold dear. Okay, next up is like a duology. We have Preset and Reset. So Reset actually came first, and Preset is like a prequel, but it came after. So I can tell you about Reset, and these are by Serena Dolan. This says, Can you love someone you don't remember? After the last war destroyed most of the world, survivors from a new society in 4 self-sustaining cities in the Mojave Desert, in the utopia of the 4 cities inspired by the lyrics of imagined and Buddhist philosophy, everything is carefully planned and controlled. The seasons, the weather, and the residents. To prevent mankind from destroying each other again, its citizens undergo a memory wipe every 4 years in a process called tabula rasa, a blank slate, to remove their learned prejudices. With each new cycle, they begin again with new names, jobs, homes, and lives. No memories, no attachments, no wars. Eris, a scientist who shuns love, embraces tabula rasa and the excitement of unknown futures. Walling herself off from emotional attachments, she sees relationships as pointless and avoids deep connections. But she is haunted by a recurring dream that becomes more frequent and vivid as time passes. After meeting Benja, a handsome, free-spirited writer who believes his dreams of a past lover are memories, her world is turned upside down. Obsessed with finding the Dreamers, a secret organization thought to have a way to recover memories, Benja draws her down a dangerous path towards the past. When Metis, the leader of the Dreamers, appears in Eris's life, everything she believes falls to pieces. With little time left before the next tabula rasa, they begin a bittersweet romance, navigating love in a world where names, lives, and moments are systematically destroyed. Thought-provoking and emotionally resonant, Reset will make you consider the haunting reality of love and loss and the indelible marks they leave behind. Next is Blood Orange by Karina Hall. And this says, From the New York Times and USA Today, best-selling author of Black Sunshine and River of Shadows, comes a new dark vampire romance about the vampire known as Dracula. Once there was a man who fell deeply in love with a woman he could never have. When their affair was uncovered, she was brutally murdered in front of him, and he discovered he was cursed, doomed to live forever as a vampire. Over the centuries, he found his love again and lost her again, until he was so broken he gave up on love entirely, sinking into the depths of depravity, losing his humanity. Then one day she came back into his life, a student of music studying under him at the Conservatory in Venice, Italy, where he was a professor. But even though he found her beautiful and intriguing, he didn't recognize his fated mate at all, because this time she had to hide her true self. This time she came back as a witch, whose destiny wasn't to love him, but to kill him. Next up is The Witch and the Vampire by Francesca Flores. This says, a queer Rapunzel retelling where a witch and a vampire who trust no one but themselves must journey together through a cursed forest with danger at every turn. Ava and Kay used to be the best friends until one night 2 years ago when vampires broke through the magical barrier protecting their town and in the ensuing attack, Kay's mother was killed and Ava was turned into a vampire. Since then, Ava has been trapped in her house. Her mother, Eugenia, needs her. Ava still has her witch powers, and Eugenia must take them to hide that she's a vampire as well. Desperate to escape her confinement and stop her mother's plans to destroy the town, Ava must break out, flee to the forest, and seek help from the vampires who live there. When there is another attack, she sees her opportunity and escapes. Kay, now at the end of her training as a flame witch, is ready to fulfill her duty to kill any vampires that threaten the town, including Ava. On the night that Ava escapes, Kay follows her and convinces her to travel together into the forest while secretly planning to turn her in. Ava agrees, hoping to rekindle their old friendship and the romantic feelings she started to have for Kay before that terrible night. But with monstrous trees that devour humans whole, vampires who attack from above, and Ava's stepfather tracking her, the woods are full of danger. As they travel deeper into the forest, Kay questions everything she thought she knew. The two are each other's greatest threat, and also their only hope, if they want to make it through the forest unscathed. Only 2 more to go. Next up we have Queen Among the Dead by Leslie Livingston. This says, a dazzling fantasy inspired by the legend of the first true queen of ancient Ireland. In the kingdom of Ire, banshees chill the air and water wights lurk in the rivers, but the gods have abandoned the isle and magic is jealously hoarded by the king's druid priests. Neve is the forgotten youngest daughter of the king, and Ronan is a druid's apprentice turned thief, making a living by selling stolen spells. They should be enemies, but their shared hatred of the druids and a strange magic that has marked them both makes them unlikely, if uneasy, allies. When a shocking death throws the kingdom into chaos, Neve must seize the chance to take the throne, with the help of Ronan and the realm's most dangerous outcasts. Their journey takes them to the outskirts of Ayr, where magic still runs free, and where an outlaw and a warrior princess might carve out a future with spells and swords. Leslie Livingston vividly reimagines Celtic legends and fairy tales to craft a thrilling fantasy adventure that will captivate readers of Bridget Kimmerer and Tricia Levenseller. Okay, last book is These Bitter Blooms by Emma Hamm. And this says, in a world where magic means power, a small gift is a curse. Thea was not blessed with power. Her gift of devouring plants and absorbing their hidden abilities does not make her stand out among her peers, until a young man from the other side of the river sees something in her that no one else has seen before. When his family mercilessly strikes at her pride, he makes a point to ease the sting. Alistair is not like his family. He has no interest in magic or wealth. He can see through the veil of the world into the fairy realm, and that has no use in his family. He never understood the desire to write to the girl across the river, but she turns his world of gray into a life of color. At the first opportunity, he meets with her. The second, he falls in love. And the third, he knows he wants to marry her. Until the cities across the river go to war. Their lives are shattered, ripped apart, and thrown asunder. Then, 10 years later, a chance meeting brings them back together. He needs a secretary, she needs a job. Neither realize they were about to be thrown into each other's arms once again, and this time he doesn't intend to ever let her go. Okay, so those are all 38 books that I have accumulated since my last haul. Have you guys read any of them? Did you like them? Did you not? Comment down below and let me know. Well, I hope you enjoyed this video. If you did, give me a big thumbs up. If you'd like to see more videos like this, click that subscribe button down below. And until next time, remember to always be completely you. Bye!